Great to see everybody. Good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. And this Monday afternoon, we're going to do, I think it's Monday afternoon. It seems like Monday afternoon, although the week seems like it's already started a few days ago. But on this Monday afternoon, we're going to do a couple of Rashis here. Let me just get this up. A couple of Rashis in the second Aliyah of this week's Parsha of Terumah, a very interesting Parsha. Lots and lots of details. Some more technical Rashis, so we'll have to find some interesting ones over the course of the Parsha, now that we get down to the dimensions and the details of the various implements of the Mishkan. I wanted to show you a Rashi here in our Aliyah, having to do with the basic system of the Kaporis and the Aron. In the first Aliyah, we have the description of the construction of the Aron. And then at the beginning of the second Aliyah, we have the description of the Kaporas. Vasisa Kaporas Zahav Tahor, Amasayim Vachetzi Arka, Mavachetzi Rachba. Make a Kaporas. Rashi says here it's Kisui al Ha'aron. It's the covering for the Aron. Then the Torah describes the kruvim, the golden kruvim that would be placed above it. Torah describes how it's one miktzah. It's one miksha, one piece, one golden slab. It's all carved out of the same slab. It's not multiple pieces put together with a bottom and a top and the kruvim, but it's one cover for the Aron, which is made of a base and the two kruvim, and it's placed above the Aron. Pasuk tells us after, speaks about the dimensions and the specifics of the kaporas and the kruvim, venasates kaporas al ha'aron. You should place this cover above the Aron which we know about from the previous Aliyah. Milamala, you should place it above. Ve'el ha'aron titena sa'idus asher etena lecha. And into the Aron, you should place the testimony which I will give you. So Rashi says here on our pasuk, Ve'el ha'aron titena sa'idus, after finishing telling us a little bit about the kapores, all of a sudden it goes on to tell us about putting the edus inside the Aron, which really doesn't fit over here. Rashi says, Lo yadati lama nichpal. I don't know why this command was doubled. At the end of the first Aliyah, where it really does belong, we're already told the exact same thing. Now in the Ar Aliyah, we have again, almost the exact same words, just a couple of psukim apart. So question number one is Lama Nichpal. Why is it said twice? I would add to the Rashi, add to his question, and say it seems out of place in our pasuk. It seems totally in place over here in this pasuk, which is the conclusion of the whole Aron section. After describing the Aron, you describe what goes in the Aron. What goes in the Aron is the edus. Now it talks about the kapores, which is the cover that goes above the Aron, which already has the edus inside of it. So why does it have to then go backwards and tell us that the edus belongs in the Aron? So not only is it ichpal, but it's completely out of place over here at the end of the description of the kaporas, and completely in place over here at the end of the first Aliyah, where it's actually first described. So what's Rashi's answer? Yesh lomar shebalu lamed odo Aron levado below kapores iten tchila haedus besocho. What it's teaching us here by reiterating this command again in the section of the kaporas is to teach us the order with which things have to be placed and assembled. You might imagine that you construct the Aron, you construct its beautiful cover, you put it all together to make sure it fits, looks nice, then you take off the cover, you put in the edus, and you put the cover back on. It's like when you're taking Tupperware out of the cabinet in your kitchen. You take out the Tupperware, you take out the cover, they're all sort of mixed up, at least in my cabinet they are. You try to fit the right cover with the right Tupperware, you make sure it fits, you make sure it looks good, then you uncover it. You put your food in and you cover it back up again. So too over here, you might imagine that should have been the process. And that's what you would have learned if you learned about the Aron, and then you learned about the edus that goes inside, then you learn about the kapores. Those would be individual components. The fact that it comes back and reiterates over here after we learn about the kaporas and after it talks about where the kaporas is placed, that the edus had to have been placed inside the Aron, what it's teaching us is about the order. Shebe'odo Aron levado below kapores. Before the kapores is ever made, when the Aron is still alone, that's when you have to put the edus inside. So over here, it wasn't just connected to this section about the Aron, because it happened to be describing that over there, what goes inside the Aron, but it's specific. It's reiterating over here that when you put the kaporas on the Aron milamala, that you should have already put El Ha'aron, the Eidos Asher Yitain Alach. It should already be in there before the kaporas ever goes on. V'chein matinuk shehu kama mishkan. We see when the Mishkan is actually established, they put the Eidos inside the Aron. We see this is actually fulfilled later on as the Mishkan is completed. So what our hunch here is about the repetition of the Psukim and why it's reiterated over here after the Kaporas is actually borne out a little bit later on when this is actually carried out. They do put in the Eidos before they put the Kaporas on the Aron. By the way, what is the Eidos? The Eidos, of course, is the Torah. As Rashi says earlier on over here when the Eidos is first mentioned, Ha'edos is HaTorah. Shehi le'edos beinu beinechem shetzivi seschem mitzvos aksuvos ba. It's a form of testimony. It's a form of testimony about the bris, about the covenant between God and the Jewish people, about all the mitzvahs that we bound ourselves to and that Hashem commands us with, and therefore it's called eidos, it's called testimony. So this Rashi helps us to work out the repetition here in the two psukim and teach us this important halacha about the order in which things have to be placed. What I'll leave you with is a question, which of course Rashi doesn't address and I don't have an answer to, which is why it had to be this way. And it's a question we ask oftentimes in the Torah, and the Torah doesn't give us those answers. So it's a good endeavor to try to think about it, but perhaps not be wed to actually having to find the answer, since we will absolutely never know what the real answer is until one day HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us. But you could think about why it had to be. What's the symbolism of the Torah having to be in the Aron before the Kruvim, before the Kaporas ever gets placed on the top, and what it means about the nature of the Aron and its interplay or its relationship with the Torah that's inside of it versus its relationship with that which covers it. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi. You too, and everybody.
Rabbi.
Not everything